All right, what is up? And welcome back to How to Invest in Commercial Real Estate. And we are back.
What's up?
There we go, Ryan.
Brian's yawning.
Yeah, Brian's halfway there.
I was up late doing real estate last night.
Yeah, plugging away on the deals.
Yeah, the deal flow.
Anyway, kind of before we get into the show, kind of a lot going on. We don't necessarily have a deal that we just closed or a deal that we're about to launch. So I apologize. We're a little slower. We've probably got 3, maybe 4 deals to launch before the end of the year. So that's exciting. One is a super small one we should be doing in the next couple of weeks. So we're super excited about that. We're actually going to fly out to Henderson and Reno to go check out both of those sites.
Carson City and Henderson.
Okay, we're flying into Reno. So
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
And driving.
Yeah, Carson City. Yeah, we've been talking about it a lot. 10-year Treasury just touched 5% today. It's a 22-year high, which is a big deal. Also, unemployment numbers continue to suggest a resilient economy. And so what we're hearing is that our feds are going to be keeping rates most likely high until the end of 2024. So we have to, all real estate investors need to keep that on their radar as we move into 2024.
So a couple of things. Remind us kind of what the 10-year Treasury is, because the 10-year Treasury is kind of like a global lending benchmark, so to speak.
Yeah. So there's 2 really big indexes. The 10-year Treasury is one. It's U.S. Treasury bond, 10-year Treasury bond, and a lot of loans are based on that. A lot of commercial loans are based on that because normally you get a 10-year fixed commercial loan from Fannie, Freddie, maybe even CMBS, and then you've got the other one which is prime. And a lot of times prime decides what short-term interest rates are, like our development deals.
Floating stuff.
And that is like 8.5 at the moment, which is also really, really high, maybe a 20-year high as well. So those are the 2 rates that we're dealing with, and we just have to keep an eye on them because as we get further and further into the cycle with higher and higher rates, people that need to refinance that aren't in a good position, like we've talked about earlier, are going to be struggling. And those are going to turn into opportunities. It's also going to put downward pressure on pricing and upward pressure on cap rates. So make sure everybody knows that.
But I think generally speaking, I mean, it's not a news channel, but there's a lot going on. Like 2024 is also an election cycle. We've got the Ukraine and Russia conflict. We've now got the Israel-Hamas conflict.
Yep.
Crazy time. So if anything, now's the time to be paying attention. Now's the time to be nimble. Now's the time to make fast course corrections when you see so, because things are changing kind of super fast right now.
And like I said, opportunities are going to start to hit the market, and they're not going to look necessarily like really good deals, but they most likely will prove to be good deals as the cycle goes.
Yeah, just
like you can get a bank-owned deal at 30% off. Yeah, maybe today it doesn't make just a ton of cash flow, but you're buying 30-40% below where it's going to be trading 2 years from now. So that's important.
Yeah, just like there were good deals in 2008 and 2009, there were back in 2001.
Yep.
It's going to be the same. So, yeah, like you said, you got to keep your eye out.
So that kind of bridges perfect into the concept of the show here, because the theme we're going with today is to stop spending as much time trading as much time for money, right? We need to have money make some money. We need to make some smart investments. We need to stop just having this ideology of I'm going to go get a job and that's my only source of income, because we know there's a way to make more money, and money typically buys you freedom, time freedom. And most people don't like to talk about money for whatever reason, because it's pretentious or it's shiny, but people love to talk about time. So today we're going to talk about time, right?
Yeah. And so guys, it's so important. Most of you guys listening are working a day job, and that's totally respectable and it's totally fine. But when are you planning on quitting that day job?
I work a day job.
Yeah. Ask yourself the question, when am I, what's my plan? When am I quitting? And most of you are going to say 65. Most of you are going to say 70. And the question we want to ask you today is, why are you picking that number as a goal? Most of you, it's because of cultural significance, right? It's not because you're excited to get your Social Security check, the $400 a month that you're going to get when you turn 65. Like, oh, that's the reason you're quitting your day job? No, I don't think that it is. You're making a plan. You're planning to quit or retire at 65. And what we're saying is, everybody listening to this podcast, your number one goal as an employee should be to separate the amount of money you make with the amount of time that you spend. That should be your life mission. And if you can get a hold of that, then you can start making plans to retire earlier than 65, because you're not focused on an age. You're focused on an amount of passive income that will replace my day job income, where I can quit my job forever and have all the freedom that I want. We're not necessarily talking about wealth here. We're talking about your freedom.
Time. Yeah,
time. And you just can't buy more time in a sense. You can't create more time, but you can buy more time, is what I want to say. Money allows you to buy time freedom, but it won't do that if you have to work hours for it, 8 hours a day for that money. But what if you could have an investment where you put money in and then it spits money out for you every single quarter for the next foreseeable future, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And that's what commercial real estate does for us, and that's what we want it to do for you guys, is to start earning that passive income. And once you get a hold of that concept, then you're like, okay, I'm earning $1,000 a month now from my investment. And then you save up and you work hard and you get a little more money, you put it in. Now I'm earning $2,000 a month. And then you set another goal. 3 years later, you're doing more. Now it's $4,000 a month. Well, I don't know what everybody makes, but you can see there's a path to quitting your job if you can replace that day job income with this passive income. And I think I texted you guys this. What we do is we trade our freedom to go to work 5 days a week, every week, to get enough money to buy back the freedom that we traded in the first place. And that really stuck with me. I think I read it in one of the books I was reading, is that we start with freedom, but then we get mortgages and we get car loans and we get student debt and we have all these obligations. So then we trade the freedom that we have to pay for the stuff that we didn't really need in order to buy back the freedom that we had in the first place. And so, most people, they're trading 5 days for 2. They go to work 5 days and then they get 2 days of freedom. But if you can get a hold of passive income and you can start building that eventually, and I'm not saying 5 years from now, but 10 years or 20 years from now, you can be in a position where you can get that freedom back. And it doesn't have to be when you're old at 70. Yeah. It doesn't have to be that age.
So there's kind of a couple different buckets of like passive income, right? Because you've got the type of person who goes and earns, let's just call it $100,000 a year. That's a clean and easy number. They earn $100,000 a year at a W-2 job, career somewhere. They've been working there a while. And then they also have invested over the years, and maybe they're investing with us, and they've got, $500,000 invested with us, and they're getting residual income to the tune of like $50,000 a year, and he's earning $100,000 at his salary, and he's getting $50,000 passively. So there's one type of person that's not going to take that $50,000 and exchange it for freedom. And I think that's the big point here, is we all have the opportunity to double down on more shit that we don't need, or buy a newer, nicer car, or a bigger house, or send our kids to a nicer school. And what we're saying is almost the opposite. Take that money that you didn't exchange your time for and go buy some time. Like go buy some time with it, not some useless shit. And then if you buy enough time, you'll end up and have this abundance of money eventually, right? Yeah. After a few years of discipline of doing that, of not just consuming not only more than you make, but at least everything you make, at some point you've got to be consuming less than you're bringing in at like some gross, level. You're bringing in 150 and most people are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I think the first step is just living within like a reasonable set of means. Maybe living within what you can actually afford. And then step 2 is like pass on the temptation to buy the shiny object and instead use that to barter for some more passive income, which buys you time, right? Yeah. It buys you the ability to go to your employer and say, hey, I'm really only looking for a gig that does 4 days a week. I'm willing to take a salary cut or move to a different department or whatever that is. I want my Fridays. You may be willing to gamble the fact that you may get fired from that job, but you feel so confident. It's like, oh, I've got thousands coming in now. It gives you that kind of freedom to like, yeah, you're not going to be fucked if you leave. Probably can't say that. Got to bleep that out. You're going to be screwed if you get fired from your job, because now that you've got some support from these other things, you've got other sources of revenue. You've got something that you're not just slaving away for every day at 8 a.m. And you may love your job. That's fine. I happen to love my job, so I'm not slaving away. But at the end of the day, you've got to make the choice to not buy the shiny object and to reinvest that into some vehicle to buy you more time. And it's not like 10 minutes at the gym, right? Or maybe for some people it is. Maybe it's an hour a day so they can go work out. What I think Joel was hitting on earlier, though, is this idea that it doesn't have to be 65.
It's just so arbitrary, and yet people just decide, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a plan together to retire at 65.
That was my plan.
Yeah. And I, once again, you're just buying into the cultural norm that, okay, 65, 70 is when I get to retire or quit work or do what I really want to do. And I'm just saying, you can ask a different question, is how do I retire at 35 or at 45? And how do I have the lifestyle that I want without working till I'm 70? I'm young enough to enjoy it. And I just don't think enough people are putting a plan together to retire early, because they don't know how that would happen, like what that would look like. But commercial real estate offers at least a glimpse into how it might happen. There's a million different ways to get passive income, but real estate happens to be one that we're really good at, and we're helping investors get into. And so then you can say, okay, well, it's just a function of replacing my day job income. And I'll give my own example. When I finally quit the job, day job at like 37, I think I had set a goal to retire at 35, but I didn't get there. But I left.
Failure.
Yeah, I know. I was such a failure.
Loser.
But the only reason I got to quit at 37 is because I set that goal for 35.
Right.
If I wasn't trying to work towards that goal, then I would have never got there. And that's what I'm saying most people haven't set, is they haven't set a goal to try to get their freedom back earlier than 65, because society just tells them that's what they should do. But the point I was going to make is that I wasn't making huge amounts of money when I quit. I left a very high six-figure job that I could have just kept making, and
like
I could have done
$500,000 a year.
Huh?
$500,000 a year.
No.
Okay,
It was like 175,000 a year.
Very
or
strong
whatever.
six figures. This guy, come on, he's like a surgeon.
Yeah. Okay.
How many $100,000 a year?
So it was roughly 175, 200, and so I left that, and I could have stayed there, and I could have even invested more money.
Yeah.
But at what point is your time and your life and your freedom, what is it worth? What is the value? And for me, I had enough money to cover my expenses and to live on, and I knew that I could keep building on the real estate. So then I just decided, okay, I'm going to walk away from a really good salary, but I'm getting more time with my kids. I'm getting more freedom with my family, and it's going to be worth it for you guys listening if you'll just set a goal. And I don't know your situation. Maybe it's 50. Maybe you're 45 like me, and you're like, okay, I'm going to set a 5-year goal to retire earlier, a 10-year goal to retire at 55. I don't know. But if you're in your 20s listening or 30s listening, you've got a real shot to do something different with your life. If you focus on turning earned income into passive income, that's step number one. Step number two is separating your earning power from the time that you spend. So if you can do those two things, you're going to retire earlier than 99% of people, and you're going to buy back that freedom that you traded in the first place.
Yeah. Good point. Mike, so, I worked an office job for 40 years. And as I got closer and closer, my plan was to retire at 65. I didn't know what else to do. While I was working, I thought, what else can I do? What else can I do? I was an engineer. Can I do consulting? No, I didn't know what to do. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to stick as much money as I can in my 401k. And that was my retirement plan. I'm going to work to 65. Well, as closer I got to that, I was realizing, well, that 401k is not really, I can't live off that for the next 30 years. So I had to do something else. And fortunately, real estate came along. I worked a day job for about 5 more years, and then I was able to retire. And like you guys were saying, I wish I'd have done it earlier.
So I feel like we're glazing over the best parts of the story, right? Because I feel like some people think we're up here talking about passive income. And I want to give my experience. I don't have a lot of passive income in real estate because I work so freaking hard to manage the real estate. It's not like I'm just writing Brian and Joel a check and then forgetting about it and then they mail me a check. That would be amazing if only there was somebody who did that. But anyway, back to your point, which I completely forgot.
Oh, that's great.
You said we were glazing over the...
the best part of the story, right? You didn't own the commercial real estate company. You were still working that job. You were living on less than your means. You had access to a little bit of capital that you had saved up throughout the years, and you saw an opportunity to be a completely passive investor in real estate.
Right. I didn't have a real estate company. I was just investing.
Completely passive.
Yeah.
So people love to shit on passive income. That is passive.
Yeah.
You wrote a check, you got a lot bigger check back. Actually, that still pays you checks, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it's still paying me checks.
Still paying you checks. The worst deal Joel ever made. The best deal for Brian. But that's what you have to do when you're starting out, right? If you are fantasizing about, hey, I want to own a commercial real estate company, that's awesome. I think it's cool too. That's what Joel did, and he had to give somebody this crazy deal. It's like watching Shark Tank and Mark Cuban saying, make me a deal I can't refuse. It's like, I'll pay you $500,000 if you'll take 10% of my company, is what I would say.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do to get into the game, to learn it, to figure it out. But you were looking for that opportunity. You had made the shift. So if we can be anything, think of us as like this spark to pull some arbitrary number out of your ass to quit your job. Not because you hate it, but because you deserve more than working 40 hours a week, every week for the rest of your life for somebody else. You deserve more, right? I believe that.
Yeah, and your employer, because I am an employer, they're just paying you enough that you won't quit, and they're also making money on what they're paying you. So if they're paying you $100,000, they're making $500,000 on you, or $800,000 on you. And so you have a genius, you have something special and unique about you, and your employer is utilizing that for their benefit. Okay, but what if you focused on just your skills for your family and for yourself? What would you be doing? If your job paid you $0, would you still go? And if you would, great, you have a great job. But and if you made $600,000 a year at your job, okay, great, you got a great job. You can afford to keep working at that job because there's so much excess cash that you can invest. But most people aren't in that boat. You're in a job you don't like. You're in a job that requires too much of your time. And we're just saying, why? Why have you not at least set a goal to quit that job and to do whatever it is that you really love? And we want to be a resource to help you do that.
Hey guys, Joel said I should quit my job, so I'm out.
Yeah. Now, don't go quitting your
Do
job.
that Monday, or today. Today's Monday.
All right. Well, hopefully we encouraged you. We want to be inspirational to you and to help you achieving your goals. But we think commercial real estate is a great option to start that passive income and start replacing that day job income right now.
I feel inspired right now.
There goes Braden.
I quit. You're quitting?
I quit.
Yeah.
He's out.
He's out.
Done.
Thank God we finally got rid of him.